Hey, what's up? So, Spartan and I were doing some film review from the other night's Sweaty Squad, and we wanted to illustrate some concepts that are kind of apparent to us, but maybe aren't apparent to everybody. I heard for those of you that were there, you guys kind of heard me talking about like a green zone and a red zone in types of many different types of buildings. In particular, from the film review that we're going to be discussing in this video, we're looking at the chevron. So I've gone ahead and used my magnificent artistic abilities to emulate the floor plan of the chevron here, just so then you guys can kind of better visualize what I was trying to talk to you guys, or what I was trying to tell you guys on the fly. So you guys kind of heard me referring to the inner elbow of the chevron. So for those of you guys who don't know, chevron building is called the chevron because it kind of looks like a chevron, kind of like an arrow or an L or however you want to call it. But this is the floor plan for the chevron. So we have the long door, we have the short door, we have maybe whatever boxes are typically in here. Usually there's some other consoles maybe lining the wall or whatever. But this is kind of what I was referring to in the green zone, or of the green zone, excuse me. And the reason why I refer to this as the green zone is because when players are holding in this area of the chevron, they're minimally exposing themselves to multiple lanes of fire, if that makes any sense. And furthermore, what's crucial about this green zone is if friendlies go down in this green zone and you die, it's very easy for medics to res you in here versus if you die here next to the doorway or here out in the corner, in which case people could shoot you from multiple different angles, right? So ideally, when you are in a point holding squad, you need to be thinking not only, is this a good position for me to get kills, but you also need to be thinking in terms of survivability, like, can I survive here? Can a medic pick me up if I go down easily? You know, so when I was referring to everybody like, hey, like, consolidate a little bit, get inside the green zone, what I noticed is that there was a lot of people kind of like playing over here, if that makes any sense. Like in a lot of buildings, there will typically be, let's say, like a console here and then a console here, kind of lining these back walls. And people think that it's a good idea to go and play maybe here or whatever. Like, in my opinion, there's certain cover in this game that is functional, and then there's a lot of cover that kind of serves to provide a false sense of security when in reality, instead of being in an effective position, you're just going to get bottled up and killed by grenades, C4, etc. So obviously, I would consider this to be one of those locations. Another location that I would consider this to be is next to a doorway. You guys can see that I kind of just did like a big red splotch here, right? Obviously, if you guys are playing up forward, not only are you guys going to be covering friendly lanes of fire, preventing friendlies from shooting out towards this doorway here, but you're also going to be exposing yourself to, enemy C4, scatter maxes, shotguns, all the cheese, right? So it's important to kind of, so I feel like sometimes our members forget that we're the ones in the A point and the enemies need to come to us. So I think, in my opinion, we need to act like it. So a case in point video example of players kind of playing in this area of the chevron and dying and forcing a medic that was otherwise in a good position here in the green zone to kind of run out and expose himself to res you. We actually have a video of that Spartan here is going to showcase. So they can see the video now if you want to play.
All right.
As you can see, Spartan's playing the doorway in actually a pretty good position, right?
Until I have to res these people.
Yeah. And then he notices that multiple people are going down, grenades are going off. See those consoles that I was illustrating? Spartan, that was otherwise, kind of pinning down a doorway and playing smart. Now he needs to go out and expose himself and get all these people up. Imagine if all these corpses were on that inner elbow of the chevron in here, like I was talking about, right? If that was the case, then Spartan wouldn't have had to expose himself. So we got lucky in that situation that the enemies didn't really capitalize on those 5 or 6 people going down there on long. But yeah. If you want to talk about the turret there as well and like
Yeah.
suppressing turrets.
So if you do look at the diagram, on the diagram, that green zone is actually pretty big. It does cover a good amount of the building, and if it's as easy as just sitting in the green zone, then it seems pretty simple, right? Well, in this case, in this fight, not only were we outnumbered more than 2-1, which it's pretty solid odds, especially considering the kind of players we were up against, and I think we did really well. Um, like actually very very well. It's just the small amount that we were not like the small amount that we were below perfect was being multiplied by all the cheese that they were using. So all the explosive C4 maxes, um, and especially as you guys might remember, those of you that were there, the Cobalt Harasser shooting through the long side, and this dude on a mana turret with robotics tech and jockey. Those two people were the top of the scoreboard, and then it was all of us. They had way more kills than anyone else, and considering the fact that we were outnumbered by so much, them having more kills is like that means like they killed a lot of us.
Yeah,
So
for
that
sure.
was really honestly we could have. I mean, we got within 5 seconds of taking that base.
Yep,
It's real close. We did amazingly well,
exactly.
but so I think in this video, yeah, as you can see, I'm over here like at the beginning of where I was showing the. I'm trying to kill this guy in the turret because at this point we've been dying to him so much that I was literally just trying to click his head as best as I could because I was just tired of our push being like threatened by him. Um,
One
and
concept,
then yeah,
yeah, one concept I just want to illustrate. If you could just kind of go back there to that beginning like freeze frame of you like shooting at that doorway, and you guys see all the friendlies here that are kind of, playing the right side of that forward box there. Like you see where Fist is here and Arculum. In my opinion, what we need to be doing is we need to be getting in the habits of rotating. Right now, people you kind of hear this word a lot, like rotate, and it makes sense on like a macro scale to many people. Like, oh, the squad needs to rotate to short stairs, or that fire team needs to rotate to double doors, while the other fire team continues to hold like long stairs or main hall or whatever it is. Right, like on a macro scale, rotating makes sense to people. But when we kind of focus in on the micro, people kind of lose tangibility, I guess, as to what rotating is. But rotating is just as pertinent on a squad to squad or a fire team to fire team basis as it is on an individual basis. So case in point, if there's a harasser or a mana turret gunner or whatever shooting through a doorway like this, the least productive thing that we could do is kind of pile over each other and expose one another. And like you'll notice, like if there's more than like two or three people poking a given angle, they're kind of working against each other at that point, if that makes any sense. Um, they're kind of shooting each other in the back and they're competing for that angle and they're competing against one another for kills. And it kind of like reminds me of like, kind of like grunging around, like, being greedy, looking for kills or whatever. Like in reality, with this mana turret gunner, there should be like groups of two or three people poking him, and then they get low, and then other people cycle in while those people go and get healed by our medics or whatever. And it should be less of like this climbing over one another, kind of kill hungry type play. Like it's important really when you are playing in a team setting like this with CIK to realize that chances are, like in the case of this base, like we were going up against 70% pop or whatever around. Like we had two squads here and there was 48 to 96 or so enemies attacking us, right? There's plenty of enemies. I guarantee you, if you guys play a little bit more, I don't want to say necessarily passive, but if you make them engage you on their terms, then obviously you're gonna die. Like, there's no reason to be playing forward on this door, like whoever this is here, unless he's gonna go pop off like a C4 or
I
whatever,
think he's
right?
getting C4, but
Yeah. But there's
yeah,
no
that's
reason to play forward. If you guys, I don't want to say play passive because obviously we need to be killing, but you need to be playing smart and you need to be making them push you because when they push you, that's when they make the mistakes. That's when you can take the engagement on your terms as opposed to, them taking the engagement on their terms, which doesn't make any sense because there's three times as many of them as you. Why would you give them what they want? Another quick concept I want to talk about is just like buying time is honestly a really good way to form an analogy to think about point holding. So every single time you throw a res grenade or you throw a C4 and you take out an enemy scatter max or two, right? Think of it as buying time for the point hold or whatever. If you if you are a medic and you res a friendly medic, maybe you bought yourself 2 or 3 more seconds of time on that timer. If you C4 an enemy scattermax, or if you decimate an enemy scattermax, or if you take out that C4 fairy that would otherwise, C4 the router and 10 people around it, you bought yourself 15 seconds on that point hold. Think of it as when you're killing, you're just not like contributing to your XP score or your cert count or whatever. When you're killing people, you're contributing to buying time for that point hold. And every single person that you killed, every single concussion nade that you throw that conks a few people, every single effective play that you make ultimately contributes to buying time to that point hold, right? So again, in my opinion, the play here is actually considerably good. Like we did very well. But with anything,
Oh yeah. Look at
yeah,
this freeze
yeah,
frame. I mean, look at this. Like even after that C4 was thrown, like we're all behind cover in this green area. Like that this freeze frame actually looks perfect. And then we continue to fight in this area.
yeah,
But here I noticed that a lot of us were down in this area, so I had to hop around a bit to start picking people up.
exactly.
There's way better examples of this, but just
Yep,
yeah, like the
for
number of
sure.
bodies in the red zone is just not
So
healthy.
I'm gonna go to back to the diagram real quick. So we were kind of honed in on the chevron building here, but this concept of like a green zone and a red zone is actually pertinent for pretty much every building in Planetside, right? Now, if you guys do like our one-on-one trainings, like you understand that we tell you to expose yourselves to like as minimal angles as possible and kind of hug a wall, because if you're hugging a wall, you know for a fact that you can't be shot from your back because your back's up against the wall, right? It's kind of like that concept on an individual play level amplified to a squad level, right? So this is a powerhouse floor plan for those of you guys who can't immediately see that. I know my artistic ability isn't, it's not what it used to be. But anyway, I hope you guys could see that this here is the main hall, right? And we have short stairs here, and then this is long stairs, and then through the connector here, of course, we have the back half, and then the forward half with the double doors here, right? So again, this concept of a green zone is very, very important. Actually, I kind of misdrew this here. Like, I would even go far as to say that this here is also a red zone. Okay. Or, maybe not quite like there, but like right around, like, unless like you're just hugging that box there, like this should really be
Peeking the box
considered
is fine
a red zone.
because it's in fact it's important to make sure they don't like take a hold on
Sneak in
that
here,
far corner,
for
but
sure.
definitely don't push past it like that red zone right there. Yeah.
Exactly. And the reason is, and what we teach our medics, right, is that we need to be playing the connector here. Now, this is like a same place that you. Fucking dog is barking outside the window. Perfect timing. Huh. Um, shut up.
It's not very
um,
audible. You're good.
Oh, you can't hear it. Yeah, he shut up. Actually, it's
Barely.
kind of funny. Yeah, but anyway, if you guys see this connector here, right? Like as a medic, you should be playing the connector. Okay, so like we teach our medics to constantly be cycling through the connector here, through these two doors in between main hall and the Dubs room, right, in back half. So if you die out here, right? If like just the same thing that we were going over here. If people are dying in this corner, if people are dying out here and dying, think about it. If I'm a medic who's playing on connector, I need to run across this lane of enemy fire, right? I get here, I need to run across this lane of fire, res you, and then I need to run back across this lane of fire to recover to my original position. It's not sustainable. So you as a heavy should really like obviously assess the situation. If we're like 65% of the pop in the hex, yeah, feel free to flex out, play a little stupid, whatever, like that's fine. But the second that things start to get 50-50, we need to be thinking in terms of like resability. Like if I die, can a medic pick me up? And medics are going to be able to easily pick you up within like this area here around the connector, okay? And from this connector region here, like you can reasonably get like good lanes of fire out here, out there. Like you can cover 99% of what you would be able to cover here, but with much better survivability, in my opinion, right? Um, yeah. And then anyway, like the same concept applies. Like we really shouldn't be right next to the double doors. Like I see people dying here all the time. Like I see plenty of people, usually pubbies, right? And again, this concept of like bait cover, I guess, or as Siren or as Spartan called it, like siren cover. Like this cover here, in my opinion, like a lot of times on a powerhouse, there'll be like a little box here, right? Like this, and consoles maybe lining the wall up against the wall, like maybe here or whatever, like along this back half, right? Like in my opinion, this is bait cover. Like another one is that there's usually like a box right here, right? I would not advise playing against that box because again, like if you die, think about how far a connector medic is gonna have to run to pick you up. So like even though there's technically cover somewhere, that doesn't mean to use it. If that makes any sense. Like if you're using this cover here, or if you're playing like this little center region in between the two double doors that I see so many people play, um, this region is always being C4'd, always being shotgun light assault or whatever the fuck is coming through here, or scattermax with Maddox or whatever, like you need to be thinking in terms of like, is this a sustainable position? It might grant you one or two kills in the moment, but ultimately you're gonna die, and then a medic is gonna go try to get you, and then he's gonna die, and then ultimately you're detracting. Versus if you guys just remember, we're the ones on the 8 point, they're coming to us, and you play a little bit more reserved, and you make them play on your terms, not only are you going to get more points and more kills, but we're going to more effectively cover our objectives, and we're going to have a better, cap rate, if that makes any sense. Like, you know what I mean? So Johari is one of those bases where it's a chevron. I noticed that we kind of struggle, but in my opinion, a chevron is one of the easiest buildings to hold in Planetside. Now, obviously, it's not perfect. Once it's breached, it's very difficult to recover. But when you think about it, there's only 2 points of entry. You can either go through short or long. By the way, the reason why these are denoted as short and long is because this lane of fire is short and this lane of fire is long, right? So that's why they're known as short and long. Just a little tidbit, right? But if you guys can keep them bottled up here, and if you guys can keep the engagement on your terms, um, it's going to translate to more experience, more kills, better stats in your book, and it's also going to translate to a more effective point hold. Yeah, so we need to be working on fighting this kind of like new player mentality where you'll see like a lot of people kind of like subconsciously just running towards like the nearest kill or whatever, or like kill hungry. Like you need to understand that those people are going to come to point. We should be playing reserved, we should be playing in the green zone, making them come to us, right? That's pretty much all I had to say. Spartan, if you have anything to add, you can, or maybe if you want to go over that breach, you can, but I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, one thing I want to add is keep in mind these green zones are not static. First of all, they evolve, especially when you introduce things like cheese, like that cobalt harasser and that mana turret. We're covering like a good amount of that green zone in that chevron building.
For sure.
There's very few places that were safe, especially when you throw in the numbers and the number of grenades coming in. Like there was no green zone in that building. We were all just dying, and it sucked. But we did really well, obviously.
Yep.
Um,
Cobalt harasser.
just
Right.
keep in mind that they do evolve as the battle changes, as it flows around. And also, these green zones can be applied out in an open field. Like they can be applied anywhere. You can apply a green zone in any kind of situation where you have a team holding something down. Um, so, yeah, I think that's all I've got on that.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So just, I guess in the name of keeping this video concise, like we could go over that breach that is kind of like in this recording as well, but in my opinion, that's kind of deviating a little bit away from this
Yeah,
topic of green
that'll probably
zones.
go up in another YouTube video, anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
It
Yeah,
was
we
pretty
could do
well
like
done.
a breach breakdown. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. So anyway, I'm gonna end the recording. But thank you.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah.